Okay. When you guys start talking, Jordan will start timing.
Throughout recent decades, Americans have bared witness to a frighteningly drastic increase in the number of mass shootings, most prolifically the slew of fatal school shootings. This disturbing reality has left a country shell-shocked and demanding answers, leading to the ever-present and highly debated topic of firearm regulation. And although this can certainly be justified as one of the contributing factors to this occurrence, one aspect of the equation seems to be disregarded time and time again: the treatment of mental illness in America, or the lack thereof. Rather than continue to deal with the distressing effects of ignoring this issue, we propose that steps be taken to combat mental illness from the start, by instilling a nationwide mental health care program in high schools to identify symptoms early on. The program would screen students for mental illnesses and help those who have them. Mandatory health classes that high school students already have to take would place a stronger emphasis on educating teenagers about mental illnesses, how to deal with them, and how to support a friend or loved one with the instability of emotional disorders. With these treatment and preventative measures looked at from historical, ethical, economic, and scientific lenses, mental illnesses can be identified and treated early on, preventing instances such as these from continuing. From a historical lens, many Catholic European cultures have seen mental illness as religious punishment or as demonic possession. The American history of mental health care dates back to the 1800s, when patients were locked up like prisoners and given no opportunity to leave. Treatments that were available were unspeakably cruel, including lobotomies, electric shock therapy, and insulin-induced comas. The horrific conditions have morphed very slowly into our current system, but it is still primitive and understudied for our advanced society today. In 2009 alone, the National Alliance on Mental Illness gave the United States a D rating on its mental health care system, dubbing it fragile and inadequate. The dark history of these unethical treatments for years created a negative view of the mental health system, leading to a stigmatization and discrimination against patients. Institutionalization allows the public to ignore the problems of our fellow citizens and accept a societal sweeping under the rug attitude towards mental health patients and facilities.
In a recent risk behavior study, a sample of over 15,000 high school students in a 12-month period found that in the year period preceding the survey, 16.9% of students had seriously considered committing suicide, 16.5% had made a plan to, 8.5% had attempted at least once, and 2.9% had attempted with needing medical attention afterwards. Furthermore, 90% of teen suicides have been a result of mental health illnesses at the time of their deaths, and were not provided proper treatment beforehand. Thus giving rise to the question of ethics. Is it right for the federal government to dismiss the issue at hand regarding mental health in the education system? With incidents like the Sandy Hook Elementary School incident and similar student-conducted murders, innocent lives are put at risk each day for each student with an untreated mental illness, easily preventable with the screening provided by the school. Education is the building ground for success in America, and to decide that it's morally right to sit back and remain blind to the obvious need for mental health screenings when innocent lives of the public are put at risk would generate an even larger hole in the education system, in America's both present and future. In addition to a screening, mental health education in the classroom would allow students to become aware of possible symptoms as well as understand how to respond and prevent life-risking situations resulting from mental illnesses.
Aside from the obvious ethical factors of neglecting mental health care, it also comes with its own share of economical considerations. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, over $1 billion is spent annually on medical costs associated with just completed suicides and suicide attempts by youth under 20 years old. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. According to the Mental Illness Policy Organization, people with untreated psychiatric illnesses comprise 1/3, roughly 250,000 of the estimated 744,000 homeless population in America. A report in the New England Journal of Medicine found that homeless people spend an average of 4 days longer per hospital visit than comparable non-homeless people. This extra cost, approximately $2,000 per hospitalization, is attributable to homelessness. As well, in 2006, the Bureau of Justice Services estimated that 705,000 mentally ill adults were incarcerated in state prisons, and 78,000 in federal prisons, and 479,000 in local jails. With numbers like these, it's evident that overcrowding has become a problem in U.S. prisons, considering that the average yearly cost to house one inmate is upwards of $30,000, and these numbers are just rising.
According to data presented in reports by child psychiatrist Dr. Mina Fazal, about 75% of adults who access mental health treatment had a diagnosable disorder when they were under the age of 18. However, only 25% of children with mental health problems received treatment. Although mental illness cannot be prevented, it can be controlled. Most conditions, such as the top 3 in America, depression, bipolar disorder, and schizophrenia, require continuous treatment. Treatment includes multiple types of therapy, such as music, group, and psychotherapy, as well as daily doses of medication that act on the nervous system to strengthen nerve cell connections in the brain regions. For more severe conditions, transcranial magnetic stimulation may be used to depolarize or hyperpolarize brain neurons. Because mental illness treatment has improved significantly throughout the years, treatment methods are safe and recommended to be utilized at the first sign of symptoms, especially in adolescent ages, thus giving the necessity for education systems to screen for these conditions very early.
One solution already showing promise is the Mental Health in Schools Act. The program provides funding to public schools so they can partner with local healthcare professionals. Currently being implemented in only a handful of schools in California, the program has shown immense success. The only drawback is that the problem would cost roughly $200 million to instate nationwide. However, when one considers the unabating economic drain and unethical implications of overcrowded prisons and homeless shelters due to lack of mental health, the price tag is infinitesimal. And although it isn't perfect, it's a start.
Carolyn, can you talk to me a bit about your solution? If you were to sum it up in one sentence, how would you do that?
Well, does that put a higher emphasis on caring for mental health at a young age by instilling education in schools.
Okay. Let's go with Janelle. As we all know, you were gone for part of this presentation, or part of the time leading up to the presentation. So can you talk to me about how that worked out with your group? Just talk a little bit about the process of how you worked with your group.
It was quite a difficulty because I was in a different country, so the time changes is really hard, and plus communication skills, or communication between members, was really difficult. However, we did set group deadlines to get assignments turned into each other, so we'd have the maximum amount of opportunity to get our information coherent and prepared for our presentation. So I feel like that was a good help.
Okay. Let's go with Maddie. Talk to me about what information you had a hard time with finding when you were doing your either group research or your individual research, and how did you get around that?
I think there are two hard pieces that we couldn't really find, and I think one of them was a refutation that wasn't economically based, because I think the majority of people agree that the mental health system is flawed and that it needs to be reformed. The other is finding a perspective from a mental health patient themselves of the conditions that they live in.
And Matthew, if you were going to do more research, what other areas did you not have a chance to look into that you found interesting?
I would look more like from like a firsthand, like a person that has actually been in a situation, like has been like within a school shooting or not, get like their take on it, as well as like a person who has had, like I talked about suicide and whatnot, who has had those thoughts, and if they had if they were given treatment, would they have actually taken it or disregarded it?
Okay.